Buying things online has become a part of day-to-day lives for many Africans living in urban centers. It's just about lunch hour here in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm about to place an order for one of my favorite meals. However, should I go on and complete this transaction, the e-commerce service provider will be liable to some form of digital tax. In January 2021, Kenya introduced a 1.5% digital tax on social media influencers and e-commerce companies that provide services such as online advertising through digital platforms. The tax is levied on total sales made by any business over a certain period of time rather than on the total income of the business. A number of companies operating both in and outside the country have started complying with the tax. I'm now at the offices of e-commerce company Glovo in Nairobi, an international delivery entity with a growing clientele in East Africa's commercial hub. It is a classic example of the very businesses that this digital tax is targeted at.
So Glovo is an application that enables users or consumers in this case to access literally anything in their city. We are what we call a multi-category application. We can deliver literally everything under 45 minutes.
The digital tax,
yes.
How has been your experience with that?
We are paying the digital tax, but what we are not doing is passing the cost to the consumer. So currently, how the model works, we are supposed to pay with a 1.5%, not on the gross transaction of the goods we sell, but the commission that we make, and we are actually paying for that. We actually filed our first payment last month. The good thing about the digital tax, it's you can offset it against the corporate tax. So the corporate tax is the tax a company pays against their profits. Right now, Glovo is not profitable. Hopefully, we will be in the next 1 or 2 years. So when we pay the 1.5% of the digital tax, we will offset it against the corporate tax. Yeah. So it's like we are paying the corporate tax in advance.
You're not passing that cost to the customer, and you are saying it's significant. How has that affected your business?
Well, in terms of how fast we make money or become profitable, of course, it has become a bit longer because, of course, it's a cost on our end. So, but what we try and do internally is to try and optimize any other, budget lines that we can. Is there any way we can become more efficient and reduce the cost? So, yes, it has definitely impacted us, and it might delay the time period where we were supposed to be making profits.
The Kenyan government seeks to collect more than $45 million in the first 6 months of implementing the digital tax. But analysts have warned that the tax could push the population to access digital services informally. So as the country tries to build a sustainable digital economy, how is the government handling this?
The government has certain agendas that it needs to deliver on. And as it is now, we are aware as the Kenya Revenue Authority that this is business that has been going on the online platform. And I think the coming into play of the COVID-19 pandemic only just widened, opened our eyes wider to come to the appreciation that whereas brick and mortar, the traditional businesses in brick and mortar, some of them didn't, survive through the pandemic. Most people actually went online. So what are we doing about that? It is important to do this so that we are also expanding the tax base. We might base the argument on the basis of young people, we are killing businesses, we're doing what, but that is the reason why we've decided, let's start small. Let's start with a small rate. Tax is not static. It responds to a dynamic economy.
Out of Africa's 1.3 billion people, around 526 million of them use the internet, translating to about 40% internet penetration. Now, Kenya is just one of the many African countries that have introduced some form of tax aimed at the digital economy. Zimbabwe levies a 5% tax on e-commerce operators that provide or deliver goods or services to persons resident in the country. In South Africa, digital services are taxed indirectly through the value-added tax. Uganda, on its part, has the over-the-top tax, commonly known as the social media tax, where users are required to pay 200 Uganda shillings per day to access online services such as WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Skype, among others. In January 2020, a digital tax targeting firms that sell goods or services through foreign and local e-commerce platforms came into force in Cameroon. Allegro, a relatively new e-commerce startup, has been paying the value-added tax.
As a startup and as any business person, anytime there are new taxes or new tax laws, you need to be shaky a bit and a bit worried because it's going to affect your profitability. So we had to find a way to see how we can transfer that tax to the final consumer. The VAT in Cameroon is 19.25%. So that is really a lot. So imagine if you're selling a million francs a month as a startup, a huge chunk, more than 100,000 francs, just go to taxes. Before the corporate tax, we have to pay and other taxes, council tax and all of that. So between, let's say, last 3 months, as per the sales that we did, approximately we paid almost 100,000 plus in VAT as far as VAT is concerned with the new law.
In November 2020, Cameroon was forced to suspend implementation of a phone tax that subjected all phones or tablets and digital terminals to a 33% levy that was to be paid through airtime deductions. The reversal was made after a public outcry.
Good morning, welcome to AppsTech. I am
Rebecca Enonchong, a tech entrepreneur in Douala, was a notable face in the pushback on the proposed levies.
So yeah, I was really concerned about the way that the tax was going to be implemented. Of course, you know, in any economy, you do need some taxation, but you know, the real driver of our economy right now is the digital space. And this tax, which was intended to pull credit out of users' phones to pay for custom duties, was really ill-advised. And I'm so glad that the president decided to repeal that particular tax. So if we look at the way businesses are taxed in general in Cameroon, we'll find that, for instance, we're taxed on revenue, not profit, in addition to profit, I should say, which is a very regressive way of taxing. It doesn't encourage businesses, especially startups, that lose money for a certain number of years before they can actually generate profit.
Niaje? Ko sawa? Asante sana. Now, half an hour after I placed my order, my meal has finally arrived. The transaction cost me $12, and out of that, 18 cents will go towards the digital tax. Now, as I go to enjoy my meal, let's get tips on how to succeed in Africa's increasingly competitive digital economy.
The first tip I would have to succeed in Africa's digital economy would be to believe in it, to really believe in Africa's potential and what we've been able to accomplish so far. The second tip that I would give would be to be disciplined as far as entrepreneurs are concerned, and really to sacrifice and work hard towards your startup or your enterprise. The third tip I would give would be to governments, and that would be to create an environment where the digital economy can thrive without too many constraints.